I didn't think anything significant would happen in a laundry room that smelled like detergent and damp socks. Tuesdays were always the same. I'd come home from work, carry my basket downstairs, pretend I didn't mind the hum of the machines echoing against tile. The fluorescent light flickered like it was tired too. I'd set a timer on my phone and scroll without really reading anything. That's where it started. Not with music swelling or some cinematic slow turn. Just the soft thud of another laundry basket hitting the floor. She said, "I think this machine eats quarters," like we were already mid-conversation. I looked up. She was standing there in gray sweatpants and an old university t-shirt, sleeves slightly rolled. Hair loosely tied back. No makeup, or not enough to notice. Mid-40s, maybe a little older. Calm in the way people get after life stops surprising them. "It does," I said. "You have to push the coin slot twice. Like it needs encouragement." She smiled at that. Not a big one. Just a corner-of-the-mouth acknowledgement that I'd passed some invisible test. I showed her the trick. Our hands brushed for half a second. Static, probably. Nothing dramatic. But I noticed. After that, Tuesdays shifted. Not in schedule, just in awareness. I'd listen for her steps upstairs before bringing my basket down. If I heard the soft drag of furniture or a door closing, I'd wait a minute. Casual timing. Not obvious. She started bringing fabric softener sheets even though she didn't use them. "I always forget," she'd say, and hold the box out toward me like an offering. Still forgetting. I asked once. "Still pretending," she said. There was something about the way she leaned against the dryer while it ran. Arms folded. Head slightly tilted when I spoke. Like she was listening to more than my words. We didn't talk about anything important. Weather. The neighbor's barking dog. The way the power flickered during last week's ring. But she remembered things. "You said you had an interview Monday. How'd it go?" I blinked. I hadn't expected that. "It was fine," I said. "They'll probably call someone with more actual experience." She studied my face for a second longer than normal. "You're harder on yourself than they are." I shrugged. "You don't know that." "I can see it," she said quietly. That stuck with me longer than it should have. Most nights, I'd go back upstairs and sit on my bed with my phone in my hand. I'd open a blank message to someone I used to talk to. Type something halfway. Delete it. Lock the screen. Repeat. Loneliness isn't loud. It's just routine. Cold coffee on the desk because I forgot I made it. A pause show still asking if I'm there. Standing at the window longer than necessary. And then there was her. One Tuesday, the dryer buzzed and neither of us moved to open it. She was folding one of my t-shirts without realizing. Slow, careful. I watched her hands. The way she smoothed the fabric with her palm like it mattered. "That one yours?" she asked, glancing up. "Yeah." She handed it to me, but her fingers didn't let go right away. Not in a flirtatious way. Just delayed. "You ever get tired of eating alone?" she asked suddenly. The question felt misplaced in a laundry room. "Sometimes," I said. She nodded like that confirmed something she already knew. There was a pause. The dryer ticked as it cooled. Someone upstairs turned on a faucet. "I make too much food," she said, eyes on the floor. "Habit, I guess." I folded a napkin from the little table by the sink, over and over until it was a tight square. "Yeah." I managed. She hesitated. Not nervous. Just measuring. "If you're around Thursday," she said, "you don't have to eat alone." It wasn't dramatic. No lingering touch. No music swelling. She just picked up her basket and walked toward the stairs. At the door, she looked back once. Not at my face. At my hands. "7 okay?" she asked. I nodded. After she left, I stood there longer than necessary. The machine had already stopped. My clothes were folded wrong. I checked my phone out of habit. No new messages. Except now, Thursday was waiting. Thursday felt longer than it should have. All day at work, I kept checking the time like it owed me something. I almost convinced myself not to go downstairs at 6:58. Almost told myself it was just dinner. Just food. Just a landlady being polite. But at 7:02, there was a soft knock on my door. Not loud. Not impatient. Just there. When I opened it, she was holding a ceramic bowl covered with a plate. "I figured if I waited for you to knock, we'd both starve," she said. I stepped aside to let her in. I was about to. "Of course you were." Her apartment felt different from the laundry room. Warmer. Lamps instead of overhead lights. A faint smell of cumin and something baked. There were framed photos on the wall, a younger version of her with a little girl missing her front teeth. That your daughter? I asked before I could stop myself. She followed my gaze. Yeah, she's in university now. Karachi. A pause. She doesn't come home much. There was something careful in the way she said it. Not sad, just adjusted. We sat at her small dining table. 2 bowls. Steam rising. Knees almost touching under the wood. It's nothing special, she said. I always cook like I'm feeding 4 people. It smells like you know what you're doing. She smiled. That's generous. We ate quietly at first. Not awkward. Just aware. Halfway through, she said, you know you don't have to pretend you're fine all the time. I looked up. I'm not pretending. She held my gaze a second longer than comfortable. You are. I laughed softly. You read minds too. No, she said. I recognized the posture. I didn't ask what she meant by that. Instead, I told her about the interview. How I walked out and immediately replayed every answer in my head. How I always do that. How I imagined better versions of myself in conversations that already ended. She listened with her chin resting lightly on her hand. I used to do that in my marriage, she said quietly. Replay arguments. Think of better things to say. Softer things. Stronger things. None of them changed anything. That was the first time she'd mentioned it directly. You're divorced, I said, more statement than question. For 3 years. She stirred her tea even though the sugar had dissolved. Sometimes it feels like 30. The room felt smaller after that. Not suffocating. Just closer. A thought flickered what this looked like. A 44-year-old woman having dinner with the 26-year-old man who rents her upstairs portion. What her daughter would think. What anyone would think. I imagined moving out abruptly. Creating distance before something unspoken turned visible. I imagined staying. You're thinking too loud, she said softly. Sorry. Don't be. She leaned back slightly. I invited you. That part's on me. There it was. The risk, sitting between us like a third plate. We finished eating. She stood to collect the dishes. I reached for them at the same time. Our hands met around the edge of a bowl. Neither of us pulled away immediately. Her fingers were warm. Steady. She didn't look at our hands. She looked at me. You don't have to leave right away, she said. Not a command. Not a plea. Just an opening. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that dinner, the house started feeling smaller. Not physically, just aware. The next few days, we fell into something that looked accidental. Morning overlap in the hallway. Her holding a mug. Me pretending I hadn't timed it. Late start, she asked Friday. Shift changed, I said. It hadn't. She nodded like she believed me anyway. I started noticing things I shouldn't have. The way she tucked loose hair behind her ear when she was thinking. The soft crease between her brows when she read messages. Once, her phone buzzed while we were both in the laundry room again. She glanced at the screen. Her expression changed, not dramatically, just guarded. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah. Too quick. Then softer. My daughter. I nodded. Of course. There it was again. The reminder. Sunday evening, I heard her laugh through the thin ceiling. A different laugh. Lighter. Someone else was there. A man's voice followed. Older. Familiar in tone, like it belonged. I stood in my kitchen holding a glass of water I didn't want. Don't be stupid. She's allowed to have people over. You're a tenant. Still, I turned the faucet on just to drown the sound. The next morning, she was quiet. Polite. Almost formal. Rent's due Tuesday, she said as we crossed paths. I know. Silence stretched too long after that. In the laundry room later, she kept her distance. Folded her clothes at the far table. No leaning against dryers. No soft jokes. I washed her hands instead of her face. You had company, I said, aiming for neutral. She paused for half a second. Yes. That's good. Another pause. Is it? I didn't know what to do with that. He's an old friend, she added. We're trying to see if, she stopped. Shook her head slightly. It doesn't matter. It mattered. Something tightened in my chest that had no right to. I focused on loading quarters into the machine. Missed the slot twice. You're angry, she said quietly. I'm not. You are. I exhaled. I don't get to be. That landed between us heavier than I meant it to. Her shoulders softened. This is exactly why we need to be careful. Careful. The word felt like a door closing. We're just having dinner, I said, and sitting too close, and noticing too much. She looked at me then, directly, no buffer. You think I don't see it? My throat went dry. The machine hummed to life, loud in the small room. I don't know what you want, she said, not accusing. Just tired. You're 26. You have space. Options. And you don't. I asked. She gave a small, almost sad smile. It's different. Footsteps sounded in the hallway outside. A neighbor's voice. A door opening. We both stepped back instinctively. Distance like reflex. The interruption felt louder than it was. When the hallway quieted again, she moved closer to grab a shirt that had fallen near my feet. We both bent at the same time. Our foreheads almost collided. We froze. Her breath brushed my cheek. Warm. Steady. For a second, no one moved. No one joked. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. Then back up. I could have closed the space. It was barely there. Instead, she straightened first. This is what I mean, she whispered. And for one suspended moment, I almost told her not to pull away. The power went out on a Wednesday. No warning. Just a sharp click, and then the house exhaled into darkness. I was halfway through reheating leftovers when everything went silent. The fridge, the hum, even the clock on the microwave disappeared. A second later, I heard her door open downstairs. You okay up there? She called. Yeah. I grabbed my phone for light and stepped into the hallway. She was already there, one hand against the wall like she needed to steady herself. Breaker's probably fine, she said. Storm must have knocked something. Rain tapped hard against the windows. The kind that makes the world feel smaller. My phone's at 12%, she added. 8, I said. She let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Great. We ended up sitting on the front steps under the small overhang outside. The rain stayed just far enough not to reach us. Streetlights were out too. The neighborhood looked paused. She wrapped her arms around herself. You're cold, I said. I'm fine. I took off my overshirt anyway and handed it to her. She hesitated, then slipped it on. It hung loose on her frame. Familiar and wrong at the same time. Your friend, I said before I could stop myself. She didn't pretend not to know who I meant. He wants to try again. And I don't know if I'm choosing him or choosing something that makes sense. The rain filled the silence. You should, I said. The word felt like gravel in my mouth. She turned toward me slowly. Should what? Choose what makes sense. Her eyes searched my face like I'd hidden something there. Do you hear yourself? She asked softly. I stared at the dark street. I'm 26. You're 44, she finished. No flinch. Say it. I swallowed. People would talk. They always do. That's not what I mean. She shifted closer, not touching, just enough that I could feel her warmth through the thin air between us. What do you mean? She asked. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the way I listened for her footsteps. The way dinner felt like something more than food. The way that other man's voice upstairs had turned my chest into something tight and unreasonable. I don't know what this is, I said finally. And I don't know if I'm enough of it. The honesty surprised both of us. Her shoulders lowered. Just slightly. I didn't plan this, she said. You think I wake up wanting to want the person who lives upstairs? A quiet, almost broken smile. I spent years trying to be sensible, she continued. Trying to want the right things. And then you're in my laundry room talking about encouraging coin slots. Despite everything, I huffed out a breath. She looked at my hands resting on my knees. Slowly, carefully, she placed her fingers over them. Not gripping, not claiming, just there. This scares me, she said. Me too. The rain softened. Or maybe I just stopped hearing it. Her thumb moved once against my knuckles. Absent-minded. Dangerous. If we don't stop, she murmured, this changes things. It already has, I said. She looked at me then, really looked. No distance. No landlady. No age. Just her. Her gaze dropped, slow, uncertain. And in the dark, with the house quiet behind us, I found myself wondering, if she leaned in now, would I let her? The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. Not just out for groceries. Gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. The downstairs windows were shut tight, curtains drawn. No lamp glow. No faint sound of dishes. Just stillness. I told myself she probably left early. Maybe work. Maybe space. Space made sense. After the rain, after her hand on mine, after that almost. I waited for the usual overlap in the hallway. Nothing. That night, I listened for movement downstairs. Nothing. By Friday, it started to feel deliberate. I went down to the laundry room at our usual time. 7-ish. I didn't need to wash anything. I just went. The room echoed differently without her there. I folded the same shirt twice. Saturday afternoon, I finally heard her door open. Footsteps. A suitcase rolling across tile. I stepped into the hallway without thinking. She froze when she saw me. Just for a second. "You're back," I said. "Yeah." Her voice was even. Too even. I went to stay with my sister. There was no sister. Not one she'd mentioned. Oh. She adjusted the strap on her bag. Didn't move closer. "I think we blurred something," she said quietly. The word think landed hard. Like she was trying to make it sound rational. "We didn't do anything," I said. "That's the problem." I waited. "My daughter called," she added. "She might come home next month. Just for a week." I nodded slowly. I didn't know what that had to do with anything, but it clearly did. "She knows about you," she continued. My stomach dropped. "What?" "Not like that." A quick breath. "She knows I've been having dinner with my tenant." She laughed. Said I sounded different. Different? She asked if I was being careful. Careful again. "She's 21, she said. "Close to your age. Do you understand what that does to my head?" I didn't answer. Because I did. It wasn't scandal. It wasn't morality. It was something quieter. A mirror she didn't want to look into. "I don't want to turn you into a rebellion," she said. "Or a phase. Or something I fix loneliness with." I felt heat rise to my face. "I'm not that." "I know." Softer now. Almost regretful. "That's why this is harder." Silence stretched between us. Not angry. Not tender. Just suspended. "So what now?" I asked. She glanced at the stairs. "At the door. Anywhere but at me." "We go back," she said. "To what?" "To normal." Normal. Laundry room small talk. Polite hallway nods. Doors closed on time. I nodded once because I didn't trust my voice. She stepped past me, close enough that her shoulder brushed mine. Accidental. Maybe not. "I meant what I said," she added without turning around. "This scares me." Then she went inside and shut the door. I stood there longer than necessary. That night, I opened my phone and typed, "If you're scared, so am I." But I stared at the blinking cursor. Deleted it. Typed again, "We don't have to erase it." Deleted that too. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. And downstairs, for the first time in weeks, the lights stayed off. Her daughter arrived on a Tuesday. I knew because I heard a second voice downstairs. Younger. Faster. Doors opening and closing. Laughter that didn't echo the same way. I stayed upstairs longer than usual that evening. No laundry excuse. No hallway timing. Around 9, there was a knock on my door. Not soft. Not hesitant. I opened it. She stood there alone. No makeup. Hair down this time. Tired in a way that wasn't physical. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded and followed her downstairs. Her kitchen light was on. The rest of the apartment dim. A half-finished cup of tea sat on the counter, untouched long enough to cool. "She's asleep," she said. "Jet lag." I leaned against the edge of the counter, unsure where to put my hands. "She asked about you again," she continued. Not accusing, just curious. "And what did you say?" She looked at the tea instead of me. "I said you're kind. And you listen." A pause. And that it complicated things. I exhaled slowly. "We already knew that." "Yes." She finally looked at me. But knowing and deciding are different. The room felt smaller than it ever had. Not suffocating. Just honest. "I've been trying to shrink this," she said. "Tell myself it's proximity. Timing. Loneliness. That if I step back far enough, it'll fade." And did it? She didn't answer right away. "No." The word landed softly. Heavy anyway. I swallowed. "I don't want to be something you outgrow once this makes less sense." "You're not," she said, sharper than before. Then gentler. "You're not a distraction." Silence. I was married for 20 years, she went on. I know what it feels like to stay when something is wrong. I also know what it costs to leave too late. I let that settle. I'm not asking you to promise anything, I said. My voice surprised me by not shaking. I just don't want to pretend this isn't here. Her eyes flicked to my hands again, like they always did when she was thinking. This could hurt you, she said. It might. It could make the house unbearable. Maybe. A small, tired breath left her. You don't even know where you'll be in 5 years. Neither do you. That almost made her smile. The clock ticked on the wall. Too loud. I'm scared of being unfair to you, she admitted. Of asking you to carry something heavy before you've even built your own life. I stepped closer. Not touching. Just reducing the distance that had been stretching for days. You don't get to decide what I can carry, I said quietly. That did it. Her composure cracked, not dramatically. Just enough for her shoulders to drop. For a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she nodded once, like she'd reached the end of an argument with herself. Okay, she said. Not a declaration. Not a surrender. Just acceptance. Her hand found mine on the counter. No rush. No urgency. Fingers sliding into place like they'd been there before. We stood like that. No kiss. No promises. Just warmth. Shared. And for the first time since the rain, neither of us stepped back. 3 months passed before the house felt normal again. Not the old normal. A new one. Her daughter left after 2 weeks. We kept things measured while she was here. Polite in hallways. Separate routines. No lingering in the laundry room. Just careful choreography. At 8:47 a.m. every weekday, I'd hear the kettle click off downstairs. That became our signal. If I came down at 8:50, there would be a second mug on the counter. Tea for her. Black coffee for me. No ceremony. Some mornings we talked. Some mornings we just stood side by side in the kitchen, watching light move slowly across the floor tiles. We didn't rush into anything physical. That surprised me most. There were chances. Late evenings. A movie half-watched. Her shoulder brushing mine on the couch. But we learned the weight of pauses. Learned that wanting didn't always mean grabbing. One Sunday, we walked to the small park at the end of the street. The same bench we'd sat on during the outage week when the air still smelled like rain. This time the sky was clear. She sat first. I followed. You're quieter lately, she said. I think I'm just settled. She nodded like that was the right answer. Her hand found mine naturally now. Not cautious. Not testing. Just familiar. I talked to my daughter, she said after a while. My chest tightened automatically. She said if I'm choosing something, it should be because it feels calm. Not because it feels dramatic. And what does this feel like? I asked. She looked at me, not searching, not doubting. Calm, she said. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't reckless. It was grocery lists written together. It was her texting me at work. Don't forget we're out of rice. It was me fixing a leaking tap downstairs without being asked. It was her leaving the porch light on when I came home late. There were still moments of awareness. The age gap didn't disappear. Sometimes in public, I'd catch someone looking twice. Sometimes she'd hesitate before introducing me. But the hesitation didn't turn into retreat anymore. We talked about it instead of shrinking from it. One evening, months later, the power flickered again during a storm. We both laughed at the same time. No front steps this time, she said. Phones fully charged, I replied. We stayed inside. Candles lit on the kitchen table. Tea steaming between us. She reached across and brushed her thumb over my knuckles. The same small, absent-minded gesture from that first dark night. Only now it wasn't dangerous. It was chosen. You know, she said quietly. If you ever feel like you're missing something, you tell me. I will, I said. And I meant it. Later, as we stood by the sink washing dishes together, our shoulders touching, I realized something had shifted without announcement. I didn't listen for her footsteps anymore. I just knew she was there. That moment with her changed everything. Not because it was dramatic, but because it stayed. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?